When I was 25, I did a TEDx talk, and it was all about my journey with anxiety. And the theme of the event was illusions. And there are a few things that I want to share with you that I learned about confidence from this experience. And I'll link the TED Talk below so you can see it. If you didn't know, it does exist. Not that many people have watched it, but it was very good and it did get a standing ovation, which was so cool. But I wanted to share this video because I was thinking about it this morning and there were so many things that I learned from just doing it. So the first thing that happened was I got really into TED Talks and my dad introduced me to TED Talks and I said, I'm going to do a TED Talk. And the first interesting thing is that this time in my life, when I was 25, nothing could stop me doing anything. I was like a powerhouse of, I see it, I like it, I want it, I got it, right? There was nothing in my way. I was in a new city, I lived in Brighton, and everything I wanted, I got at that time. And I'm not saying that to be like all arrogant or cocky, it's just that I was really clear-headed and I didn't have any stories in the way stopping me like I had done previously or in the following years, right? So there was this window of time where no story was getting in the way of what was possible for me. So I thought, I'm going to do a TED Talk, and I let it go. So that's the first thing. I just thought, I'll get the opportunity one day. But the first thing I said to myself was, I'm not ready. I'm not ready now. Because if I was going to do a TED Talk, I'd do it about anxiety, and I'm not over my anxiety yet. So one day I'll do a TED Talk and tell everyone about how I overcame my anxiety. And I thought, I'm not ready. 2 weeks later, my friend, who I didn't speak to very much, said, I've just been offered to do a TED Talk, but I've turned it down. And I went, what? And I said, I'm ringing them up. I'm going to do it. And I just went ahead with it and I just rang them up and I said to them my idea. And they said, that's actually really good because we're doing a show on illusions. The theme of this year's event is illusions. And I was like, okay. And they said, send us the brief, send us the idea and we'll get back to you. Long story short, it all went very fast. So it was obviously very much like an aligned thing. And I was selected to be a speaker at the TED Talk. And it was like, whoa, that happened quick. And then I was like, thinking about it. I got a stand-up comedy trainer to help me with my confidence and with planning it. And for months and months and months, we reviewed this TED Talk. It looked really good. And then I sent it to them and they said, no, sorry, that's not a TED Talk. That's not how we structure TED Talks. They gave me all these reasons why it wasn't a TED Talk. Because they're all about inspiring innovation. And what I'd written wasn't a TED Talk. And so they made me go away and rewrite it. And I had literally about a month to go. And I was going to Vietnam for 2 weeks of that month. So I thought, all right, I'll write it on the beach in Vietnam. And I got to Vietnam and I didn't write it on the beach. I just lay on the beach. And when I got home to Brighton, the ceiling of my bedroom had fallen onto the floor and I had to move out of that house. I had about a week till I was going up to do the TED Talk and I hadn't written it and I had to move. So I stayed in this hotel and I suddenly had this brainwave of a structure of how I was going to structure this TED Talk, and I linked it to a personal story about when I was in Lapland and I was an elf and the anxiety that I'd had about this whole experience and little things. You watch it and you'll see what I mean. And I literally went for it and I wrote it all out and I went to my stand-up comedy person. She was like, oh my God, you've nailed it. It's brilliant. And I sent it to the TED Talk people and they said, yeah, this is really good. But I practiced it in front of my dad and my brother and they said, this is terrible. So I was like, I'm going to have to cancel. I can't go. I can't do this. And all along it was like, I'm going to have to cancel. Like, there's no way I can do a TED Talk. This is ridiculous. I'm going to be ridiculed. And the other thing was that voice saying, who are you to do a TED Talk, was really loud. you're doing a TED talk about anxiety when you're really anxious about doing a TED talk. Thing is about doing a TED talk is everybody is anxious about doing a TED talk because it's really nerve-wracking to do. Like public speaking is one of these things in life that people fear as much as like death. And so but I actually really like public speaking, and I usually really enjoy it, but obviously this is a different ball game. So I had this voice going, you're not really over your anxiety. You still get anxious sometimes. You can't tell the story about how you overcame your anxiety. And the thing is, I had overcome so much. I had literally been through hell with anxiety in the past. I had been in the darkest years, especially my teen years, and just before that, I'd been through absolute hell, and I'd made some decisions that had shifted me. I'd focused on my music, I'd embraced my life a lot more, I'd focused on other things, and basically my life changed and I felt so much better. So I was doing really, really well, but I didn't feel like I could do a blooming TED talk on it. I just wanted to do a TED talk. So anyway, that voice was really loud, and I decided, unlike everybody else who was doing a TED talk that day, to not have prompts. So I decided to learn this TED Talk word for word. And I was rehearsing it, and every single time I rehearsed it, I made a mistake. Every single time I rehearsed it, I forgot something. And I went to the auditorium the day I was going to do it, and I practiced it in there, and I imagined everybody clapping, and I imagined everybody standing up, and I imagined it going well, and I imagined walking off the stage and thinking I did it. And anyway, I sat in that auditorium and my heart has never raced so hard. All the other people before me were doing all these really good scientific things and stuff, and I was there going to be talking about being an elf in Lapland, thinking, what am I doing with my life? And anyway, I got up and I did this TED talk, and it went really well. But when you watch the TED talk, just know that when I'm looking down at the floor, because you can tell I'm a bit nervous, although, I do cover it up a lot. You can tell that I'm nervous, especially when I'm looking down at the floor. What I'm thinking is, what the fuck is the next thing I'm going to say? I've forgotten. Then it just came out of me. So it was like my brain was working for me, even when another part of me wasn't. But the fact is, it went really well. It helped a lot of people. People came up to me at the end and said, I needed that talk. I needed to hear that story. You've inspired me so much. And I'm so glad I came just for that. And what it taught me was, I kept saying I wasn't ready. And then I realised, I think I will have always said that I wasn't ready. I think now I'd say I wasn't ready. I think people say they're not ready because they're not healed enough. They don't get it enough. They haven't healed their abandonment wound enough. They haven't done this enough. They haven't got the right qualifications. They're not enough. And that whole I'm not ready is basically just I'm not enough. But I was enough. And it was a very interesting thing, because it made me realise that there'll be all sorts of obstacles in your mind telling you not to do things. And at that time in my life, nothing was in my way, so I did everything anyway. And it pays off when you just think, screw it, I'm doing it anyway, even if there's part of my brain saying I shouldn't, or that I can't, or that I'm not good enough, I'm just going to do it anyway. Even to the point where I experienced someone who I really trusted, who was actually a leader, threatened me before I did that TED talk, saying that if I used anything of what he had taught me once, that he would sue me. And I thought, what the hell? It was a projection of his own fears being cast onto me. But it was so strange, because it really sort of shows, as you get more successful and as you do things, the people who really support you and love you will come out of the woodworks, and the ones who won't and don't come out of the woodworks too. And you will see who you can trust and who you can't. And it was very strange because I thought that this person would be really happy for me, and I thought that they would be really proud of me. And I actually rang this person to say, I wouldn't have got here without you. And it was just such a strange reaction. So I didn't say a single thing about him or anything he'd ever said to me in this talk. But it was so strange. What it made me realise is that the more you do, the more you're exposed to potential risk of losing people and annoying people. And like the ones who are going to come with you on your journey will be celebrating you, and the ones who you're going to leave behind will make you feel like shit, like that guy did. And I thought it was so strange for someone who, was helping people with like anxiety to like give me a whole dose of anxiety before that talk. So weird. But obviously a big projection of his own insecurities and fears from things that he'd experienced in the past as well. So it makes sense. But that was a weird experience. And Taylor Swift says it all the time, doesn't she? I mean, loads of you are like, I don't know, I don't listen to Taylor Swift at all. I really like Taylor Swift. In fact, I would like to do another video about her and her love story, because that's really interesting as well. But she's one of the most successful writers and people in the world, and she's been through the same thing. The more successful you get, the more people you lose along the way, and your true people stay with you. And it sort of it lessens the fear of being seen, because you know that there are going to be people who don't get you and don't understand you, and there are going to be people who absolutely need to hear your story. You see, my struggle that I shared in that TED Talk was beneficial to someone, even if I didn't realise that the struggle I'd had was going to help someone else. And it's the same with everyone. When you're going through the thick of something, even if you think you haven't got an inspiring story, you have. You do. And that's what I learned on reflection, is that I had something valuable to share with people. So yeah, I just thought I'd share this story to sort of inspire you to do the thing that you want to do, because fuck it, like people are gonna love you or hate you anyway, so you might as well just do what you want. And you might not feel ready, but you probably won't ever, so that's fine. Just do it anyway. Now's the time. And yeah, like I say, nothing was in my way. I didn't let the stories get in my way. And later in my life, I did. And that's something that I'm working on now, like unraveling the things that affected me later in my life that made me afraid of being seen more. In fact, that's the other thing I noticed, is the more visible I got, the more the fear of being seen appeared and shut me down, to the point where I sabotaged so many things, including this YouTube channel. Oh, and the other reason why I thought about this whole TED Talk thing was because I thought, if I did a TED Talk now, what would I do it about? It would not be about avoidant ex-partners. It's so weird. But I absolutely wouldn't do a TED Talk on that. I would do a TED Talk on how to find yourself again after loss, because that's been the biggest struggle of my life. Whenever I've gone through a big storm, whether it's because of a relationship or because of a time in my life, but usually it is because of a relationship, that I really lost myself and I felt completely awful, anxious, disconnected, terrible. There was a process that I went through every single time where I found myself again, and sometimes it took not much time and sometimes it took years. But what I learnt was that every single time there's a dark time, light always appears again. And I would do a talk about that, about being lost, and about the benefits of being lost, and about the trust that you have to have in yourself, and surrender This does not sound like a refined idea at the moment, but essentially I noticed something that whenever I thought, what would you do a TED Talk about, it wasn't avoidance. Isn't that so weird? So I think I should talk more about this other thing. But yeah, it's really interesting. So I thought I would share that story and hope that I know that one person will be affected and need to hear this. So that's good. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you're holding back on. Let me know what you can think, right, screw it, I'm doing it with. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.